Number 9. Okay. Yep. All right. So, Phil, would you like to introduce this paper?
Look, a lot of work has gone into this report on the DC's rebate for social housing, basically, and the staff will speak to it. The committee are now really asking council to agree to the development contributions rebate scheme that, for social housing developments. So that in fact that's also, and there's a clear policy, and the staff will explain that, and it's in the report, around council's development contribution policy, and this part on social housing fits quite nicely. There are 2 other parts in terms of the recommendations too. One was to ask staff to investigate options for Housing Plus, which is an organisation, it's a joint social housing venture between the Beckenham Housing Trust and Methodist Mission, and the other one is a venture which Ngāhau National Marae are establishing too. So separate, we're really asking the staff to do some separate sort of investigation around those 2 projects. Otherwise, the rest of the paper is in relation to the DC policy.
All right, so you'd like to move that?
I'll move that for recommendations.
By Glenn. Is there any discussion? Questions? Oh, sorry, okay. Jamie, Raf, Sarah, Aaron.
Thanks, guys. Love the thrust of what we're trying to achieve here with the outcome. But my question is around staff justified, I guess, the DC rebate scheme in the inner city one for the fact that we've got a green frame, a lower height, less people, thus the infrastructure was ultimately there in the central city, and then trying to create an incentive to promote an outcome actually made financial sense. Also increase the capital value as a result, so our rate take goes up. Can you help just with expanding on the pros and cons there about how this isn't dangerous as far as precedent setting goes, because DCs aren't a punishment per se, they pay for something that we need?
Yeah, I guess the genesis for this proposal was the damage or loss to the social housing stock suffered post-earthquake, and a direction the previous government was taking towards more third sector provision of social housing. So it really has been to encourage that third sector provision and to get our total stock back to where it was. Your comment about the rate take increasing isn't correct. The rate take doesn't increase, it just enables us to spread the required rate across a wider capital value. So it does have a slight beneficial effect for existing ratepayers, but yeah.
Just adding to what Gavin said, the beneficial impact of this is also by and large non-financial, so it's ultimately a matter for council to decide on. But if you want social housing and if you want more of it, then equally if you want affordable housing, or as you previously articulated with central city developments, one of the levers that we do have is DCs. And applying a DC rebate is pulling one of those levers.
That's very helpful. And just as a supplementary, are you comfortable around the precedent sort of side of it, that City Mission, for example, or a homeless shelter is going to be paying DCs? Are we comfortable that that the line is right and it's not a dangerous precedent?
I suppose we had a similar debate with the establishment of the Central City DC rebates, and it would be fair to say there was some apprehension then that that would be exhausted very rapidly, and the reality is that we've I think extended that twice in terms of the timeframes, and the Central City rebates, while it's not a fund per se, aren't exhausted, so it depends on the value that you want to ascribe to social and or affordable housing. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was kind of sort of what I was going to ask, but actually thinking about that, is there any reason this can't just tap into the current plan that we've got, because we do have funds left on that?
I guess that's possible, but I think you need to be aware that it's difficult to explain, but the DC rebate for the central city and for this operates well within the margin of error for the total DC revenue, and so it really doesn't impact on rates per se. It just adjusts some of the debt and the repayment time frame for that debt that we have on the growth infrastructure. So yeah, it's not a hard and fast amount that we will budget for it.
Okay.
It would be of Council's volition, though, if you wanted to review the other rebate schemes, given that they have been in existence for some time and aren't exhausted. I'm not sure when the natural time for when they expire are, but they're not exhausted, and there's certainly more funding in those rebate schemes not yet allocated than what's proposed for here. I think there's still 5 million left on the central city.
Okay, thanks.
4 million.
Thank you. I'm just looking at 6.13 in the potential costs here. I'm just wondering, process-wise, what the implications for the LTP and draft LTP are currently. So does I mean, I completely support the intent of this, absolutely, but does a formal decision, council decision on this today, mean that the proposed 1.5 million automatically goes into the draft LTP, and that we need to find potentially something else to come out?
Yeah, so I'll do my best to explain, as Gavin said, what's a complicated regime around DC. So the worst case financial situation is articulated here intentionally. So what we're talking about is rebating, so effectively foregoing revenue, which is the last 2 years we've received about $40 million worth of revenue per annum for DC. So as Gavin says, this is kind of still within the margin of error. That's significantly more than what we've anticipated and forecast. It's difficult forecasting DC revenues because it's subject to the developments occurring. Equally, on the expenditure side, if we were to spend $1.5 million in the next financial year, then the impact of the cost of borrowing would be 0.02% there. So I'm not expecting that all of this money would be rebated in the first year. I expect it would be rebated over a period of time, and it might be over 3 or 5 years, probably in all likelihood. And then it's a second order about which of the capital projects that the DCs are ascribed to or matched to, in a sense, go ahead, and then when does that expenditure occur? So all of those things washing out, it's unlikely to have an impact in the short term on the LTP, and the impact, if any, is likely to be very small over the medium term.
So we wouldn't have to budget anything for this?
No, it's not an LTP issue to budget for this. You're not setting up a fund that you need to borrow for straight away.
No. So
you're anticipating that at some point in time, because of developments, that you will need to construct infrastructure that the development contribution is designed to pay for.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Given that the entire playing field of social housing is changing quite quickly in this country, is there any chance that we can claw back this money through any new government schemes or anything they've flagged? Because it's obviously, there is a financial loss to the council. It's not really a cost, and you've explained that well. But they must be putting up some funds to encourage so they don't have to spend all the money and build all the social housing themselves. You know, put in $1, get 7 back type thing.
At this stage, we're not aware of any funding that is available, but certainly agree that this government is more likely to be amenable to setting up such a fund, but at the moment there's nothing available.
Yeah, I understand the government don't pay DCs.
No, the government doesn't, but does Housing New Zealand pay DCs?
Yes.
They do. So if it's a government authority, they do, but if it's a government department, they don't.
The Crown is exempt.
Right.
And there are grey areas around what is and isn't the Crown, but Housing New Zealand is definitely not the Crown.
Right. Thank you.
It's just about them being able to accelerate a program.
But it doesn't cover Housing New Zealand because this isn't. They're not a chip. It only covers chips.
Yeah,
Fish and chips.
But they're not. Yeah.
They would themselves. They.
Eh?
That's another part of the equation in a way. They would themselves.
I think that might change. I think we'll have access to it.
Could we specifically say that it is for community housing providers then as part of the resolution? Because that's quite an important distinction.
Agree to a development contributions rebate scheme for community housing providers with capital C, H and P. Housing providers undertaking to be clear. Well, the community housing, or should we are they registered?
I don't know. Leon, I wonder if at this stage whether we should actually be so specific, because we're asking for investigations for example, no AFR and the other trust. Now, one would be accredited, I would think, but I just want to make sure that in fact housing trusts, which would benefit from the scheme, in fact will have potential to qualify.
All right, take out that undertaking, take out community housing providers undertaking, and put in the words after social housing developments as detailed in attachment 1 and excluding Housing New Zealand. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. So I'll put that. Yeah, I think so. I'll put that motion. You'll find out. You're about to find out. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you.